Hi Pre-Calc, helping you with the homework, section 2.2, number 73. The first thing you want to do is the leading coefficient test. So the degree of the polynomial is a 3, so that's odd. So remember, if the degree of the polynomial is odd, the ends of the graph either go down up or up down. They go in opposite directions, the ends of the graph. So you have to look at whether the leading coefficient is positive or negative. The leading coefficient is positive, which means that it's this combination. So this graph is going to go down on the left, up on the right. If you don't remember the rules, if I can find them real quick for you, I will. I had given you guys a table of this, right? So, so this is this case where the degree of the polynomial is odd and A is positive. Where does it say A is positive? N is odd, and right down here, so you can see it. Okay, so N is odd, so it's the third degree polynomial, and the leading coefficient is positive, so it's this case. Whereas if it had been odd but the leading coefficient was negative, it would have been this case, right? And then these were the evens, depending on whether A is positive or negative. All right, so that's from that graph. That is on page 125 in your book. Okay, the next thing you have to do is find the X-Intercepts. So to find the X-Intercepts, I have to factor this and set it equal to 0. I'm going to start by taking out a common factor of x. Then I'm going to factor the difference of perfect squares. Okay, so when you set this equal to 0, you're going to set each of these pieces equal to 0. This is called the zero product rule. The zero product rule says that if you have a series of products, you can, and it's set equal to 0, you can set each factor equal to 0. Alright, so the first answer is x is 0. If you solve this for x, you get -5. If you solve this for x, you get 5. So x is going to be 0 and plus or minus 5. Now you have to label the X-intercepts as even or odd. Remember, even or odd depends on the exponent of the factored form, whether you have one of them or two photocopies of them and so on. So you only have one of these, you only have one of these, you only have one of these. So since you only have one of each type, these are all what we would call odd. If you remember, an odd X-intercept means that it's going to go through the x-axis. That's what it means. It goes through the x-axis. Okay, so now let's draw this. Remember, these are approximations. These aren't exact graphs. It's not until you go to calculus that you get more specific with your graph. So on the outermost points, you do the leading coefficient test. So this is the outermost point, so it goes down. On the outermost point, it goes up. On the right side of the outermost point. And then, like we just said, these are all odd, which means that I go through. So since I'm underneath it, I have to go through it. Then you have to turn around. You have to connect all the dots, so at some point you turn around, and that's where it gets a little tricky because it's an approximation. So the biggest question I usually get from students is like, well, how high or low do I go? Well, that's the part where this is an approximation. That's the part that calculus would tell you that I can't tell you because we're not doing the derivative here. So however low or however high you go is fine. I won't take credit off for that, okay? You just have to make sure at some point you turn around and touch the next point. That's what's important. Now this is odd, so you have to go through, and at some go down a certain amount. It doesn't matter how far you go. That's calculus to figure out exactly how far you go. But go down, make a little valley, and then come back up. And odd means it has to go through. So it should make sense. It should all like connect. Okay, gang, this is the final answer then for 2.2. So try not to get too stuck with it being exact, because what you need to get correct for pre-calc is that you have to have the ends going in the correct direction, and you have to have the X-intercepts correct, meaning whether you go through or you bounce. All right, catch you again in another video. Bye-bye.